got too many.
Hey, I'm PH and welcome to Good Bible Knowledge with PhD. In this set of videos, I want to answer common questions about the Bible in a fun and creative way. I hope these videos will be helpful for your own spiritual journey in Jesus. Let's get started. What happened to Israel after the reign of King Solomon? The reign of Solomon is recorded in the book of 1 Kings in the Bible. And 1 Kings is divided into two sections. The first section, chapters 1 through 11, record the events of King Solomon's reign, and the second section, chapters 12 through 22, record the events immediately following the death of Solomon. Under the reign of Solomon, the nation of Israel experienced its greatest moment in all of its history. Solomon was a great ruler who was empowered by God's wisdom. Rulers came from all over the world just to have an audience with Solomon. And just as God promised in his covenant to Abraham, through Solomon, the nation of Israel brought God's blessing to all the nations. Solomon's greatest achievement is the building of the temple. The Ark of God was placed in this magnificent structure which was filled with the glory of God. However, later in Solomon's life, his wealth and fame became a source of trouble as he acquired many foreign wives who led him into idolatry. When Solomon died, his son Rehoboam succeeded him as king. And as the people gathered to crown Rehoboam as the new king, they asked him to relieve them of the burdens of taxation and hard labor that had been previously imposed upon them. Unlike his father, Rehoboam was a foolish king, and rejecting the advice of his wise counselors, Rehoboam instead vowed to make life even harder for his people. It was at this fateful moment that 10 of the 12 tribes of Israel replied, "We will have no share with you. Everyone go back to your own lands, and you, O house of David, are on your own from now on." These 10 tribes then chose Jeroboam, an officer in the army, to be their new king, and they formed a new nation in the north called Israel. The remaining tribes of Judah and Benjamin formed the southern nation of Judah. This would begin a very tragic period of civil war and division, which would eventually lead not only to the destruction of the north, but of the south as well. This is a sobering example of how the mighty fall. The life of Solomon reminds us that whatever prosperity or success that we may achieve in this life is ultimately due to the grace and goodness of God alone. It is also a warning that what God gives in His grace, He can also take away if He sees fit. When Rehoboam ascended to kingship, he inherited all of God's blessing and mercy, and yet he chose to respond with harshness without mercy towards others. His tragic choice not only had ramifications upon his own life, but upon the entire course of a nation. The Bible says through faith in Jesus, we are adopted into the family of God, and we have inherited all the riches of His grace. The choice is now ours to love others with the same grace and mercy that we ourselves have received from God. Thanks for listening to another episode of Good Bible Knowledge. We'll see you next time.